Okay, welcome everyone to our Bible study.
Tu lo me pueda koga de le betamalo lisashi.
Tonight's lesson will be talking about Mark 5, verses 21 to 43.
Tanga betamalo na pagoto bakawa dali makusa do ye sabo kisita da delil bisitha.
So let's read these verses together.
Mo bago pathako lisasya sathir paima. Limakusa do ye sabo kisita delil bisitha. Do tu yeshu ko ki ko dole ko bo pusu wa bakhodo pagome pa do he oporo posua o do owe bu do polelo. Do kwa bu blo ako akla ami soya iru daga hewelo do ti odo tulo pwa thala khoti do khwe knya thpwa do siweda yupho mala no si daga kathite lo he panisula akolo di so akblaki do muerki do we da le do o do pwa mi phado le pwa ki do tini olo do pom tugala o do asa filo tisikini do tanata po amela kithira aga sipu do le silo koko kele do te blaba kotolo na torkone na huele yeshu agyeklo do hele pogo me aklale aklaki do toba kuathulo agedi e siweda yime toba te akuathu do ikablaki lo do afilo ne khitor kokha do sinyala anako le atas hablaki welo do yishu tinya we dat kokha le taso takmoha tola lo ne do kha khwa thale pogo me akla do siweda me meta thoba yiku yithurgale do aple basi ba o niti pwago mutini na do nasi me meta thoya daga le ne do di so agati ba pwale amata idmi do quadrita lo do pomine sinya tamata la lo do pliwe do konowe do hekowe do thulo pwa sala khoti do si bate ba ole ami atokhele lo do aweda si ba opomu nata nama blakili nali memu do obla kilen da sarke kotota phemu do kwat phahela bu block khotga hi do siwada na phu misili pamnela na mate tasrale do yeshu na hur kokha tagatola pasi bate ba do si ba pwa bu block ko daga ne plida re thena ta ke do dipo ba wala akino daga ba dipo the sopetru do soya ko do pwe soyo hat paulo do lenisu pabu block kwa hipu do tita kala do pwa hota yota do pwa kebutho do leniwe do siba o bamnula thu kala do hota yota le teme ba pom me phota siba miami the pelo do we thini ba phale olo do we da hoto kwi okhele do hine phota amoda pa do pa o do aturpa do lene supota o welono do hi pota asu do siba o da litha kumi dibisida do pomu pota disiba nam ngeserke do pomu pota negeseta do hawar ko kalo agedi e anni o disikini lo do wethi papa atakuma komadu no malo do malo otopopwa di to athitu bobatinya pale tamata not garge do malo welo paki ot atalo
So, what is faith?
tanani metamnile
Why is faith important for Christians?
bamnile tanani ari do dale pa kripotir phagole
Are these questions that you've ever thought about?
tasi kwatir phai ne menosok moeda de blosikoa
Have you ever wondered what faith is?
anosok moeda de bloblo no tanani metamnile nia
Have you ever wondered if you have enough faith?
no no so como weda to blah blah le ta nani no o weda le lo sikonia
Do these questions matter?
tati kwatir pa I alo wed kwagtenia
Yes, they do.
me no tati kwatir pa lo weda ni lo
Everyone needs faith to believe,
kwako ga de lu ba weda tanna la kabana dani lo
or everyone needs to have faith to be saved.
me de me no kwako ga de lu ba weda tanna la ko akapu ple weda ni lo
As Hebrews 11, verse 6 says, and without faith, it is impossible to please him. For whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him.
Le libre sa do sita sa boku ne siwa di me tana to obado taba tharthiba agidi pala a he ko su yua o banala o ndo la ame pa hilo tabuta po la pala aku or panilo.
A person cannot be saved without believing in Jesus Christ.
Padaga puple da thiba no la we mitanawe da sai shukribani.
A person can only go to heaven if he believes in Jesus Christ.
Padaga ne lewe da sumukuba muthiwe da tele awe me nawe da sai shukrinelo.
A person can only experience the warm comfort of Jesus Christ if he believes.
Padaga na we da le koplo ba we da ta mamuto la akle no le ka sai shukra ta mamuto la kle no we da ne te da la we da na onilo.
As a matter of fact, Revelation 21 lists faithless in the list of those whose portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death.
No le tagia le amata ni no le li lo plasa de kisita ni no awe pa plato da no kwala tana to obathir pa no kwathir pa ni no kabata let lo tewe da le awe no me uapu no le kewe da kami no me upu no la miwe da tathi kisu de su ni no pe no siwe da me pa plita do patana bataba do pa mata thaba do pa mathi pa nyo do pa makwa do pa huta yota do pa bata go do ki ye pa la ko to ta klib bat pane kene ba agole no me u do ka ota bu awe ni meta thi pwe to kisu de su lo li lo plasa do kisita sabu ko.
So, faith in Jesus Christ is something that we all must have.
Le tane ho tana kasai shukri ne me wa data temile we the kele ne pakaba uwe dan do pa ni lo.
There is no future for us if we do not put our faith in Jesus Christ.
Pime te pata we da patana le kasai shukri apu ba ne no kasu me nya bata o mo go ne bata o mo le kasu me nya ne ago to ba.
But can we do this?
Masada ba mata we ne thia
Are we doing this?
ba mata we ne a.
Is everything well with us?
Ta kele kese me chumo ta le balo basada pa kele linea.
Or does something have to change?
Mimir kone ta ka ba le lo ku ya ta mimine.
The passage we read gives us some guidance.
Disasia sele ba pawe da thirpa I no hipa da tusunekle de no pay.
It contains the story of two people who put their trust in Jesus.
Papa ba da le pa kiga no le ta khe pu I lawe da patawe da ta na le se shukriya pu ne lo.
They both experienced blessings because they put their trust in Jesus.
Awe the kiga le koplo ba we da ta sui suwa no mi lawe thirpa patawe da ta na le se shukriya pu ne lo.
You might be thinking, okay, so I should be like the two people in the story, right?
Ne chomo da really no jigo ba me da pa kiga ile no le ta lisasi apu pa plata we da ne teme ya.
Wrong.
Mi ta la ka mani lo.
The story is not about how great their faith was.
Ta khe ne no mi we da le to ba kha we da le pa kiga na ta na do we the ne ba.
The story is about how great Jesus is.
Ta khe to ko ne mi we da ka sai shukri mi we da le pa la do thele ni lo.
This is the story about how we are blessed if we put our faith in him.
No ta khe we ne no mi we da ba kha we da do no. Pe mi pa tho we da pa ta na le ka sai shukri apu ne no ka ba so ge we da si do le ni lo.
So the title of tonight's lesson is Jesus Rewards the Synagogue Ruler and the Woman with Bleeding for Their Faith.
Hanya e bata malo ko to ne mi we da Yeshu he la ga po bu blok ko do po mo la a fi lo ga la we tia ta na.
And we'll see first he rewards them because they have faith.
Na ba ti we da no te na a we hi la ga po we thi mi la we thi u do ta na.
Second, we'll see he rewards them despite their weaknesses in faith.
Ta ki mi de mi ne be ti we la we tia ta na gi sa ba sa a we hi la ga po o.
And third, we'll see that he rewards them with very great rewards because of their faith.
แต่แต่เมตเมเบติลาเวหิลากปอเวสิเลตาลากปอพาโดติรปาเมเลอเวสิอาตานาโฮ
So, first, he rewards them because they have faith.
นาตาเตอมีนาอเวหิลากปอเวสิเมลาเวสิอุดอตานา
The story takes place only a few hours after Jesus had left this place.
ตาเคเวอีนามาตาเพลกเซชุครีฮัทากูเวดาเลตาลอเลปมาลุเลมาเกิดตบลอนเนเวียลาคิมอเลสนารีตอบุเน
In less than a day, Jesus had left this place.
เลสกานีดีตะซอตอบูดีเดเนียตอบูดีกเซชุครีเวดาฮัทากูเวดาเลตาลอเวเน
He calmed the storm.
อเวนมาโอเวดากลิมือ
He healed the demon-possessed man
อเวดามาบลากิเวดาปาเลตานาลอดอร์กา
and returned home to the west side of the Sea of Galilee.
ลอเวเฮเกกดาคิเวดาเลอะฮีนอเลปอเลกาลิลาอามินุตกปาม
Now he comes back.
เคนาเวเฮเกกดาคิเวดา
Crowd of people come to him.
ปาวมิพาดอพิเฮเวดาสัวอุนิลอ
They want him to heal.
อาเวสิปาเอดเวดาลาอาเวสิตปากัมอามากัมอาเวกมาบลากิโอ
They want him to teach.
อาเวเอดเวดาเลกเซชุกรุกตุลุดา
Amid the crowd of people who want the attention of Jesus is one man.
เลอปากอมแบบลาเนาะปาอเวดาเดกาเนาะลาเวดาตาลก็เวดากเซชุครีอัตาตาเซเซนี่อเวดาเดกานี่ลอ
He comes before Jesus
อาเวเฮเวดาสู้กเซชุครีอักอาเมญา
and asks him again and again to heal his daughter.
อาเวดาคิกิญญาออเนาะเดบลอวิเดบลอลากัมมาบลากิเวดาพูมินี่ลอ
His daughter was sick.
อาพูมินี่สุกิเวดานี่ลอ
His daughter was very close to dying.
อาพูมินี่บุกติอาพูมินี่บุกติติเวดานี่ลอ
Who was this man?
ปาตะกายมีเวดามตานี่ลอ
His name was Jairus.
อามีเวดาซอยาเอรูนี่ลอ
He was a father.
อาเวมีเวดาปาตะกาย
He was a synagogue ruler.
อาเวมีเวดาบูบลอคุรุกา
And I've noticed that when people write about this story or preach on this story,
เนาะเพลเนาะเอาไว้เวดาตาเคเวอีเนาะดอปเสียเตเราเวดาตาเคเวนี่
they keep talking about Jairus.
เอาไว้ติดพานาเตเวดาบาคาดอซอยาเอรูกินี่เนาะ
But take note of this.
บาซาดอบกบามาเนาะเปนี่
Mark only calls him by name at the beginning of the story.
สมากูกอเวดาละมีเนาะเทดาเลตาเคซาตอตาคอติลอ
After that, he is always called the synagogue ruler.
เลเวียลาคินี่เนาะเอาไว้ดาทอบุเนบาตากอเลบูบลอคุม
I will do the same.
ยก็กอตมีข้อละ
What was a synagogue ruler?
บูบลอคุเนเนาะมีเวดามิตาเลม
Why was it important that he was a synagogue ruler?
มัมนึกลาเรดเวดาลาเวดามีเวดาบูบลอคุนี่แหละ
Every town had a synagogue.
ว่าเลือกก็วิเดนี่เนาะเลือกอิสราเอลก็ปุ่นนี่เวดาดออาบูบลอนี่เนาะ
This was like a church.
แต่บูบลอนี่มีเวดาดีต่อเตาผม
Jews would go to the synagogue every Saturday.
พายุดาโพสิปาเวเซเลเวดาเลือกบูบลอปูก็มือนุยเดเนาะเลือกมือบัวนี่เนาะปกติมือคุนี่เนี่ย
They would read several Old Testament passages.
เอาไว้สิปาพาเวดาลิซอเซียลอลีสาเซซาตอ
A teacher or rabbi would explain what the text meant.
เกเวดาปาตุโลดาเนาะอัตราเอาเวดาเชปยาเวดาเนาะลิซอเซียคอปิญออาเซลาพาโตเอสิปานาคอปิญอดิเลนี่เนาะ
The synagogue was run by several elders.
บูบลอนี่เนาะบาตาเปอเลว่าเกเวดาตาโอโพซาปวาเนาะสกากานี่เนาะ
The most important one was called the synagogue leader.
ว่าลาเรดโดกตากลาดกาเนาะลาเปอดาบูบลอนี่เนาะปากอเลบูบลอคุนี่เนาะ
He would open the service and close the service.
เอาเวดาออทเวดาเนาะตาบูตาบาซาตอตานี่เอาเวออทตาบูตาบาลอเวดาเนาะมากเตกิตาบูตาบา
He was in charge of inviting a rabbi to come forward and explain the text.
เอาเวดามูดาเวดาลากบากเวมือเวดาสราสุโลดาสิรพามันเนกเฮทอสุตาเมญาดอเชปยาเวดาลิซอเซียเซติรพานี่เนาะ
So he was an important person in the community.
Le tanya ko we mi we da pa la re do ga le pa to we pu ni lo.
People respected him.
Pa pa yu yo pa ke o do mani lo.
I would imagine that people showed the synagogue leader respect when the synagogue leader came to Jesus.
Ni chok mo ta le na pe le a we da he we da le pa go me kla no. A we pu blo ko ga I no. A mi la mi we da bu blo ko ne he we da le sai shukri o ko ne no. Wa go mi te pa ka pa do pa ke o ni lo.
People would step aside and let him go through.
Pa nya ple nya we da lo blo ne no ple le we da ni lo.
And they would allow him to talk to Jesus because he was an important person.
Awe te ke ple we da kwe la ka to da ka sai shukri mi we da la we mi pa la re do ko ni lo.
We see the faith of Jairus here.
A pa ti we da so ya I ruata na pe pe ni.
His daughter was ill.
A po mu ga ni so ki we da ni lo.
He went to Jesus.
Awe le su ka sai shukri o ni lo.
He may have seen Jesus healing other people in the synagogue.
Awe ke ti ba we le ka sai shukri ma bla ke da pa su pa sa te pa le bu bla pu.
He certainly would have heard what Jesus was doing.
Awe na ta pa ka te ne ka na hu ba da le ka sai shukri ma ti we da.
Jesus would lay his hands on people and they would get well.
No, le ka sai shukri awe da ka pa tho da su le pa go me pa ga po ko da pa ga ni ka bla ki we da ni lo.
So Jairus knew to whom he had to go.
So ya ro ti nya we da le awe ti nya we da le pa ma ta la ka ba le we da so o ni lo.
He went to him.
Awe le so o ni lo.
That is faith.
Ta we ne mi we da ta na ni lo.
Having faith might not have been that easy.
O we da ta na ni no te me ta la nyo we da ba ni lo.
As a synagogue leader, Jairus knew many of the leaders of the Jews.
Dia mi we da bu blo ko ga to ne so ya ro we da ti nya we da pa yu da po ko anati pa ama ni lo.
He probably knew many of the important scribes and Pharisees.
Awe ba te le ti nya we da le wa kweli ti pa do wa praise ti pa no. Le awe ti pa mi pa la re do ne awe ti nya da aga.
These are the types of people with whom he wanted to be friends.
Wa ti pa mi da pa ti pa le awe e do ke we da la ti ko ni lo.
These are the type of people who were angry when Jesus forgave the sins of the paralyzed man in Mark 2, verse 5.
Wa ti pa da mi we da pa ti pa la ta tho da ka sai shukri no pe le ka sai shukri po ka sai shukri pla ku we da pa ga no le a ti ko pa ga ta de ba no le ba pa ba da le li ma ko so do ki sa bo ye bu ne.
These were the type of people who were furious that Jesus healed a man with a withered hand in Mark 3, verse 5.
Awe pa ti pa mi da pa ti pa le awe da ta tho we da no le ka sai shukri ma bla ke da pa shukri thor ga ne no le li ma ko so do ta sa bo ye bu ne.
They said that Jesus was possessed by Beelzebul in Mark 3, verse 22.
Awe ti pa si we da le ka sai shukri ne no bata na lo do o no le be so bo no awe le li ma ko so do ta sa bo kizikine.
But whatever these people thought of Jesus, Jairus ignored it.
Do tat mi la no le pa ti li ta to ti pa wa parisha ti pa so ko mo we so ni no awe so ya iru no to so ko mo we da ba awe da le su sai shukri oni no.
He put those thoughts aside and went to Jesus.
Awe pa ti ko da ta so ko mo ti pa ni le ta pa bla le su sai shukri oni no.
This was his last opportunity for his daughter to live.
Ta we ni no mi we da awe da ta kweta ya le ki gute ti ta la po mu ko mu ba we da ni no.
He trusted that Jesus could heal his daughter.
Awe na we da le sai shukri ma bla ki we da po mi ti we da ni no.
When the synagogue ruler gets the news that his daughter dies, we see his faith as well.
Pele mu bla ko ga I no do ni ba da ta so la po mu ti we da ni no. Peti we da ta na o peni si ko ni no.
His friends say, "Why trouble the teacher any further?" Mark 5, verse 35.
Ati ko po ti pa ni no si ba le no ba ne le ba matita ma ko ma go thra le no. Pegati ba da le li ma ko sa do ye sa po ta si ye bu ni.
Jesus says, Do not fear, only believe. Mark 5, verse 36.
Kasa Yesu Kristi ba ono. Ti dadage the na dadage no lima kusa do ye sabota sikune.
The synagogue leader listens to Jesus.
Mu bloko ruga iya we da dog na we da kasa Yesu Kristi luni no.
He doesn't send Jesus away.
Awe da me we da kasa Yesu Kristi ke ba.
He continues to go with Jesus to his home,
Awe da se le we da kasa Yesu Kristi wa hini no.
even though he had just received news that his daughter had died.
Le kleni awe da mundo ne ba we da ta so la po mine thite we da li ba satana kine.
That's faith.
Ta we ne na me da tanani no.
The woman with bleeding also showed that she had faith in Jesus.
Papa me la fi lor ga ina we da dunne we da la we da do tanale kasa Yesu Kristi puni no.
Our text shows how bad her situation was.
Lisosia so de ne poale awe da ta uthane na metala a edomani no.
She had continual bleeding for 12 years,
Awe da fi la we da le sikini ta puni no.
never stopped.
Ke da la ta fi ka ne tu no blo ba.
She spent a lot of money on doctors,
Awe da thu we da no ti a go le hi we da ke thitra bule
but it didn't help.
ba sanda ke ne te maseo ba.
It only got worse.
Ke da ta sani na tor koma.
She became more sick,
Awe da so ke do ta we da ke.
and she became poor.
Ba we da ke to ge da ba popo ya bo.
According to the laws of Moses, a woman like her was not allowed to enter the temple and worship God.
Ne samo shia ta tu ta tho ne pa po me di tho ane na. Awe da ta ba ta plen no le ke le wani bu to ba to ke sa ywa le ta lu hia pu ba mo.
Her bleeding made her unclean.
A fi la ne na du ke ta le a mi da pa to sko ba.
And so her disease kept her from enjoying a close relationship with God.
Ne ta ne khwa ta su ta sa ne na. O yi kwi we da le a we da ke mu la ta ke we da le ke o we da do ta re lo ba thwe la bu do ke sa ywa le ta bu to ba ta no.
And because she was poor,
A me la we da pho we da ku ne.
people would have looked down on her.
Wa o mu la gu ga ne ke kwa de lo ni no.
But she heard about Jesus.
Masa do we na we da ke sa Yesu Kristi no.
She believed in Jesus.
Awe na we da ke sa Yesu Kristi no.
And she didn't just believe in her head,
Awe da te na we da te ne le awe da ka na ta chu mo pu ne ba.
she believed in her heart.
Awe na we da le a sa pu ne no.
She believed with her feet.
Awe da na we da ku do a kho ne no.
Her faith made her leave home and go and find Jesus.
Awe da ata na ne no. Du le o da le a ha to we da la hi pu do le khu we da ke sa Yesu Kristi ne no.
She didn't hesitate because she was poor.
Awe da no to ma yima no ata ba mi la pho ko ne ba.
She didn't hesitate because she was unclean.
Awe da to ma yima no ata mi la to sko ko ne ba.
It says in verse 28, for she said, if I touch even his garments, I will be made well.
No la sapo kisi khone no lima ko sa do ye sapo kisi khone siwe de agedi I siwe da ye metho ba akwa tho o yuka blacki lo.
And the Greek word indicates that she kept on saying this.
Le li heliak lo no pa plato we da la we da te we da ta we ni to lo lo mo.
She repeated these words because she really believed them.
Awe da no te we te ki we da tak to sir pa no me la we da na we da no ni lo.
She did not come to Jesus thinking, this might work.
Awe he da su se shukri o le su mo da o ta we di ba si we da awe yuka blacki ya the blacki ya.
Maybe it won't,
Ba si le me yu the blacki ba di ni ba.
but I'll try this and see if it works.
Ba sa do no yuka masa kwa ta we no awe mata le yugo at mata le yugo.
No, she really believed that if she touched Jesus' garments, she would be made well.
Me ba na me ka na we da no la we da me to ba da ka se shukri asika kotine no awe da ka bata ma blacki no.
And here we see another example of faith.
Pene piti we da ta do te ba ka da ta nani no.
She did not demand Jesus' attention.
Awe da te we da ka se shukri ata ta so se ne ba.
She didn't even think she would need it.
A tu chumo we da la lu ba we da ta we ne ba.
She believed that Jesus was a holy person.
Now that look at you cream da pass sweet again.
Even the garments that Jesus wore were holy.
Look at you classic da lenny na me sikala sweet.
Or so she thought.
Achomoeda dine.
She believed that Jesus was so powerful that all she had to do was touch his garments.
Na weda look at you cream na me weda pala puedo ta sota mo tala lo ba weda kele kesine te da la weda kotoba weda asika nui lomo.
Why did she think this?
Bam nikola weda so moeda ta ile.
I don't know,
Yutithinya bam.
but it seems that there was a belief that touching a person's garments was enough for healing.
Ba sadologa weda le tana weda kale no mitho ba weda pada asekusika ne na me weda tale ta kweli le tamabla golimo.
In Acts 19, verse 11 and 12, we also read about people being healed by touching cloth.
Na le lima ta so de sikwe sapo de sitte de le de sikine na pe pa ba weda le awe pa go mu na weda black weda le na a tho ba weda awe takutaka thirpama.
And God was doing extraordinary miracles by the hands of Paul, so that even handkerchiefs or aprons that had touched his skin were carried away to the sick, and their diseases left them, and the evil spirits came out of them.
Do yo mata lola lo so data palo so polu asipu tu daleta swemege ta yorko mege pale so lo alosu pa basu basa o do blaki o no ma blaki o do tana hato kwila lo.
Perhaps she wasn't important enough to talk to Jesus face to face.
Basithile aweda te me pale arido weda la kokotora ka sai shukile metkomeni ba.
Perhaps nobody would stand aside for her.
Basithile pata soto la go la ka panorgabamo.
That did not stop her.
Basarota weni not du sotiova.
Her faith made her chase after Jesus anyway.
Aweda tanani no du maola ke le lueda ka sai shukri ni lo.
So we see two people in this story who had faith.
Betiweda pa kiga le takewe yapuno la ueda do tanani lo.
Both of them believed in the right person.
Both
Both of them were persistent. They didn't give up. They were both rewarded. If they had given up, they would not have been rewarded. Now that brings us to our second part. He rewards them despite the weaknesses of their faith. So this does not mean that the synagogue ruler and the woman with the bleeding had perfect faith. I'd like to spend some time looking at their weaknesses. Now, I don't do this because I want to give a grade to their faith. But some people will look at our story and say, Jairus and the woman believed in Jesus. Be like them. But that's not the message of our text. Our text shows that neither of them had a perfect faith. Let's look at the synagogue ruler again. Why did he come to Jesus? Did he come because he felt that Jesus was the best person of many to heal his daughter?
Awe ha su ka sai shukriya o me la we da tu ba da le ka sai shukri me da pa la ge ka ter ga le a ka ma bla ki we da phu me ne ya.
Did he chose to go to Jesus instead of going to some doctor?
Awe da na ku tho da ka sai shukri na la le da su ka sai shukriya o le me ya le ka si tra la ga tir pa lo ne ya.
No.
Te me de ne ba.
He went to Jesus when he had no other choices.
Awe le we da su ka sai shukriya o na la ta ku tho la ga to le no mi ba ko.
He had probably gone to the doctors already.
Ba te la we le we da le ka si tra la ga tir pa o le.
His daughter was close to the end, it says.
Pene si we da na apo murga ne na awe abu ga silima.
He went to Jesus because he had no choice left.
Awen lewe da su se shukri ona mila takuta dole normi ba kone.
So Jesus was his last choice.
Meta ne kone ke se shukri ne me we da takuta le kikter kama.
He also asked Jesus to lay hands on his daughter.
Awe da me we da ke se shukri patwa su la po melo.
He believed that Jesus could only heal by laying hands on a person.
Awe da na da le te da le ke se shukri na me patwa we da su le awe wadaga alone na ke blaki we da mo.
He did not believe that Jesus could heal from a distance, like the Roman centurion did.
Awe da na we da le ke se shukri na odo ta so ta ko mala ma blaki we da apo me thi na le ta beso na di tho na we de kane paro me po thu pot ya akurga ni mo.
He also came to Jesus not believing that Jesus could heal his daughter after she died.
Awe da hewe da su awe na den na we da ke se shukri ba mo pele awe chumo da le ke se shukri awe so ko mo da le apo me thi we ba ne ke se shukri ma blaki ar thi ba mo.
When people come from his home with news about his daughter's death,
Pele o na wa he swa o le hia da so la po me ne thi we da ne.
they say, "Why trouble the teacher any further?" Mark 5, verse 35.
Ni makusa do ye sapo tesi ni si ba wedana. Bam nila na matita do makumago thrale.
The synagogue ruler didn't say these words.
Wa bubla kurganya weda te weda tak do tir ba.
These words show what everyone in his home thought.
Ba sana ki tak do tir pai na do ne plata weda wa koga de la weda la hibu ni sogmu weda.
We should not expect that the synagogue ruler would think any differently.
But ba mula le bubla kurgaya weda somu weda lo sonne pa tir pani ba.
I can imagine that he had a conversation something like this earlier that day.
Ye chum weda na weda ko weda do na ta kutu the ko le ta te mi I na le wo ko ne ma.
I'm going to try to find Jesus and bring him back here to heal my daughter.
Awa se da na ye le na hu weda ka sai shukri ba ye ke ko de ta le ke ma bla ki weda I po mi ni la.
If she dies, let me know, and I will stop looking for the teacher and come back.
Ye po me sia ne na de se nya ya na ma ye ke weda ka ne ye ko so te le ko hu weda awa ka sai shukri la me thra ta ka I ba ne ke da ki ma.
Everyone thought that if Jesus arrived soon enough, the girl would live.
Pa ko da so mo da le ka sai shukri me ha tu da le ason de se po ne na ke da le po mo to ga I ne ka bla ke da.
If not, it'd be too late to do anything.
Ame se ki ne na awe me ta la se ki le na ka ma da mi mi ne no.
The ruler of the synagogue did not understand how powerful Jesus was.
Bu bla ko ga na we da ta na pe da le ka sai shukri me da pa la o da ta so ta mo tele ga ni ba.
We also see that when Jesus comes to the synagogue ruler's home, he's surrounded by unbelief.
Pe te da pe le ka sai shukri ha te da so bu bla ko ga hi pu ne na awe da bata o wa tri o le ta ta na ta thir pa.
He comes to a home where there is wailing and weeping.
Awe het tu da ta lo pele hirpele apwe we da do no ta hota ye no ta kop su ta hota ye.
Friends and family are at his home weeping.
Ati ko thir pa hi po ko po thir pa we da la we hi ba ne na we thir pa hota ye da.
There are paid mourners, as was the custom.
nó kia đã lệ ta lưu ta là bên nhau này nó kia đã lệ qua lệ su u xin pa này nó bà ta hi gì mà
Now, all this is understandable.
ta xin pa cái lệ cái xin nó mẹ ta lệ ta na bờ gì
Weeping normally follows death.
cái vậy đã lệ awe ta cái này nó ta họ ta yêu này nó awe nime oda ta ti ta pa này nó bỏ thoát ta kia ta họ ta yêu mà
But when Jesus says that the girl is not dead, but asleep, they all laugh at Jesus.
bà sa đó nó cái say su Christ vậy đã nó lệ bỏ mẹ po ini nó thì si vậy bà nó awe đã mi vậy đã này nó thế nên nó awe xin pa này nó ni bà pa lệ đã say su Christ này nó
They don't look strangely at Jesus.
awe ti de kwa awe da ka se shukri le awe de ka ne allo choni ba
They laugh.
awe ti pan ni we dam
They know who Jesus is.
awe ti pan ti nya da le se shukri me dam ta le
They knew that Jesus could do miracles.
awe ti pa ti nya da le se shukri ma ta lo la ti
But when Jesus says to them that the girl is like one who is asleep, they
But-
show their unbelief.
pa sa da pe le ka se shukri si ba we ti na awe po me po de si ba na awe mi we da ni lo na awe ti pa du ne plata we da la ta na da ni lo
It does not say that the synagogue ruler joined in this unbelief.
te si we da le pal bu blok ko ga ye we da pa ku pa ga we da le patna ta kla ne te si we de ni ba
But we can say that the synagogue ruler's house is not a place where belief in Jesus is welcome.
Masana ke na pete we da se pa ga te le bu blok ko ga hi ne na mi we da ta lo no pele atan tna ta ba lo no le patna we da ka se shukriya lo no lo ne ka se shukri ne ta tu lo pe ne ba mo
We can also see weakness in the faith of the woman with bleeding who touched Jesus.
pati se ko no ta wi sa ba sa no le pom de ga i no la o pom la swi lo de ga i no pe la we da tho ba da ka se shukri ne
While she had faith in Jesus,
aweda dota na legse shukri
how sad it is that she did not want a relationship with Jesus.
basada metala lo ta weda do mano la weda te ta loko weda ta relo ba tweda kse shukri ne ba
She wanted Jesus' power to help her,
awe edo da legse shukri ta suta ko moko masyo
then she wanted to go away.
mo na weda edo haji ku weda lomo
I've experienced this before.
yile koplo ba weda ta we le apuku ni no
Perhaps you've experienced this before as well.
ba se tele no si we tir pa su le koplo ba ta we ile menya sikoni no
I've helped many people.
yimasyo da po aga
I wanted to help them as much as possible.
ye do masa we tir pa no te si pe to
I wanted to help them as well as possible.
ye do masa we tir pa no di agree ti we da so
I wanted to show people the love of Christ by helping them.
ye do du ne we da pa tir pa ne le create no le couple le yimasyo ni no
But in return, there was little thanks.
basa do no le awe to kone no le da he ki da kir kone no me we da ta sibri de se po ni no
There was little appreciation.
ke da la we tir pa de palu pa pwe we da ba mo palu pa pwe da de se po ni no
I felt that people only wanted to use me and then stay away from me.
YouTube le no pa tir pa ni na we tir pa te da lo le edo su ya no we ba na we da edo oji ku da da ya ni no
When this happens, it hurts.
pele tamata dini na metale we da kana bado sa psani no
It hurts not to feel any love in return.
metale awe da kana lo sa bado we da no pele poto doni ba ke we da ta eseki bwa ba mo
It hurts that people do not want to love God in return.
metale ana ama bado besana pele bwa sir pana te ed awe da kana te e we da ka sa yu te esak da ki ke we da ka sa yu ba mo
And that's what this woman did to Jesus.
ta we ine na me we da ta de mi ina le pomruga ni na ma ba we da ka sa shukri ni no
She wanted to use Jesus.
awada edo thuwe da ka sa shukri ni no
She wanted to use Jesus' power to become well.
aweda edo thueda kse shukria ta sota mo di thola ka blaki weda ni lo
Why didn't she want a closer relationship with Jesus?
mamne ko la weda te edo weda taru lo batwe la budo kse shukri ni le
Perhaps she was not interested.
ba te la we the si we zawe ba
More likely, she thought that it was unlikely that she would receive Jesus' attention.
ba te la lo ga dog te ni na we chok mo da le awe kse shukri no te awe to do ni ba da kse shukri ata ata sele kse shukri a oni te ba
Why would Jesus pay any attention to her?
Bamni kole na kse shukri ki awe da ta so ni le
She was not important.
awe te me palare do ba
She was not clean.
awe da to sko ba
She was just another unimportant person in the crowd, she thought.
awe chok mo da we da me we da palare do ba kla ga le pa gom ya kla ni mo
She thought she was not worthy of Jesus' attention.
awe chok mo da la to kro we de ba we ba do kse shukri ta so uni ba
We also see that the woman is afraid when Jesus asked, "Who touched my garments?" in Mark 5, verse 30.
peti ba se ko le po me we na we da ple da na pele kse shukri na ti kwa da na le mata tho ba yi si yuku yu so de ga le na peti we da li ma ko sa do ye sa bo te si ni
While she had faith that Jesus would heal,
pela we da ta na le kse shukri ma bla da thi ne
she was afraid when Jesus knew who she was.
aw da ple we da na le kse shukri ti nya we da le awe da mi we da ta le ni no
She did not trust that Jesus would use his power for her good.
awe da ta na ni we da le kse shukri na ko tu we da ta so ta ko mo la we da ta ge go ni ba
I bring up all these things because I want you to think about your own faith.
na ye te to we da ta ti pa ke le ke si na mi le ye do we da le no ko so ko mo we da le no ko sa da we ta na ni lo
Is your faith any better?
na ta na ni ge do ni we da pa ti pa ni a
Is your faith really strong,
na ta na ni no ge su ba su we da no ni a
like you think it is?
no cho mo we da le ta na ni do we da ni a
Are you believing for selfish reasons?
ne na ta no le ta e lo ta ata ge ti pa pa ko ni a
Or do you think that you are so unworthy that Jesus will not save you?
men me a ko ni no no cho ko mo we da le no no to kro to ba we da ba ko ni no ko se shukri we ma pu ple na ni de ti ba no cho ko mo di ni a
If we take a good look at our faith,
pa me kwa we da no le pata na ni no pa me kwa we da titi sa sa ni
we will realize that even when we are strongest in our faith,
pa ko ti nya we da no phe le no po we da le pata na su ko da le pu ne
our faith is not free of sin.
pata na ni no te te bli we da le ta de ba ni ba
And so that brings us to our third part.
man he ti le the to
Jesus rewards them with very great rewards because of their faith.
Yeshu hi la pa we thi ta la pa pha do me la we thi ta na ho
The amazing thing is that Jesus gave complete healing to the synagogue ruler's daughter and to the woman with bleeding.
ta la lo la we da do mani no Yeshu no we da ma bla ki we da bu blo ko po mu da po mu la fi lorgani le si ni no
Even though their faith is not perfect,
ata na ni na me de le pu ba sa na ki
Jesus rewards them for believing in him.
se shukri no hi la po awe thi la at na ho ni no
The synagogue ruler's daughter is healed completely.
bu blo ko po mu gani na we da bla ki we da le si ni no
Jesus did not even have to lay hands on her.
se shukri no to ba tho da le su la lo ba
He just told her to get up and helped her up.
ma se shukri si ba le na we da kan ne resete da awe da kan we da resete we da ni no
The woman with bleeding was healed of her bleeding instantly.
pa po mi la fi lo gani na we da bla ki we da la a fi lo ni na to block holam
And that was before Jesus talked to her.
na de clu di le se shukri ku to da da di ba
So we cannot say that the more faith a person has, the more a person is healed.
no kone no pete weda le parganya tana mi weda mi ne no parganya wa blaki weda do ne pete de ne sibamo.
In both cases, we can see that there was weakness in faith, but there was nothing lacking in the healing.
No bu ti weda le no pa kiga le pepe ne no awesi pa weda do tana agisabasa no la tana pune tagisabasa lo ne awesi pan na kene no tamabla ne no te sidisga la awesi pa gobamo.
Jesus was not angry with the woman who touched him,
Kese shukri no te sato weda pomula toba ni ba
what she was afraid of.
aweda pli weda tamo.
Jesus turned to her and said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." Mark 5, verse 34.
Lima do ye sapote silwene na yeshu si ba o pomo natana ma blake linali keke mumu da o blake le nata sarki
He calls her daughter.
na we ko ole pomo ma
He doesn't call her cousin
na we to ko ole no od kwaba
or niece
na de podo ba
or younger sister.
na pude mu ne ba
He calls her daughter.
na we ko ole pomo ni la.
The woman feels unworthy to have a relationship with Jesus.
Wapomwene na weda tuba dale atukro tuba weda a rilo batweda kasa shukri ni ba
She's afraid of Jesus,
na weda pliweda kasa shukri
but Jesus seeks her out,
basada kasa shukri hutini amo
not to heal her.
de mele a weda kane amabla ni ba
He already did that.
weda mabla di alima
He seeks her out because he desires to have a relationship with her.
weda huti ona kasa shukri huti tini ona mele weda edo weda le pomune ko weda weda edo weda data rilo batweda pomune la.
He loves her.
Awe odumani lo.
He wants her to know that.
Awe weda le pomwene kithinya weda ni lo.
He says, "Your faith has made you well."
Weda si weda le ntanani no mablaki nali.
In other words, Jesus is not waiting until her faith is good enough.
Pumitele taktoga pene kase shukrit ko weda tule pawene no tana mitala riele lo ni ba.
He healed her because she had faith.
Kase shukri mabla no mila weda udotana kuni lo.
Go in peace.
Awe te weda no kiki mimuriki.
Jesus is telling her that he is restoring peace.
Kase shukri deba ole aweda mi pala du utoki weda ta hutamu.
Or as the Jews call it, shalom.
Mane pa yuda po weda le shalom ta hutamu ta hutapu.
And shalom means more than peace.
Shalom na kabinyo ani di weda le ta hutamu.
It means that you are healthy
Akamya mi weda le no oso kli weda
and prosperous
oku opwe leto
and whole.
Bonne ke weda no ta ule opwe dona ke le kesi tabalobasa dona ke le kesimo.
Now that the bleeding was removed from the woman's life, she was healthy and whole again.
Ke ini no ta sala filoni no hamakwe da le pomirgania ta umupuni no peke nya weda usu klita ki weda bla weda ta le ta pwe no aweda miki weda pa usu kli ki weda le popirgani lo.
The word for this disease is actually the word whipping.
Ta to no le mi weda ta sawe no le batako le ta tomo.
Her disease was as harsh as if she had been whipped.
Aweda ta sarkai no asuko weda di le aweda batato thomo.
No longer was this disease a part of the woman's life.
No ta sarkai no te bale pomira ta umule bam.
At the synagogue ruler's house, there is complete healing as well.
No le bublo kurga ne no aweda kane tama blaki le sisi weda ni lo.
The 12-year-old girl is healed.
Ke weda pomi pota sikini rega ini blaki weda.
She's walking.
Aweda le a hato weda.
She's hungry.
Atata wetha.
Sick people stay in bed and usually don't eat much.
Ke da le pasupasa te pa nyo nu la wa te pa we da le mi ko bla ne to oda bam.
Because the synagogue ruler believed that Jesus could heal his daughter, his faith was rewarded with a complete healing.
Me le bu bla ko ga I na we da le ke se shukri ma bla ke apo me si we da ko ne na la ta na ko ne na a ke se shukri hila hi ke po o na le da ma bla ke le se se ni la.
Did they continue in faith?
A we te pa se we da le se o mu we da le ta na ne a.
Did they believe that Jesus was their Savior after he died on the cross?
Awe tir pana da le se shukri me we da ta uke ka ke sa pe le se shukri ti le to sunya lo wi la kinia
We don't know the answer to that question,
no pero tinya we da si se le ta ti kwa we ni ba
but we do know that if they believed, then right now they are with Jesus in paradise.
ambassador no pe tinya we da la we tir pa min na ta ni no le sa ko ta ke da le ni na we tir pa we da do ke se shukri le paradise o puni la
If they stopped believing, then they would not receive any further benefits from Jesus.
ambassador we tir pa me so to we da la na ta ni no awe tir pa to do ni ba we da babli ba po le ke se shukri o le ta umu sunya go ni ba
People often believe that faith works like money.
wa hokoponyo ni na we da le no tan na ni no ma da di so si so mo
If you have $1,000 in your bank account
ni mi o da da si to ko to le no na ba bu ne
and your neighbor has $10,000 in his bank account,
ba ne no pa le no ko ga ne ni ba ga ne no a ti mi o da ta ka la le a si te bu ne
then your neighbor is richer than you are.
ba ne ne pa le no ko ga ne ya ke we da le a tu to do ne na mo
The more money you have, the more you can buy.
ke we da ne si mi o a ne na pu da ni a mo
We often think that we also have a faith account in heaven.
Nyo ni no ba chok mu we da le pu we da do no tan na asi su ro no le mu ko ba me bu ne
The more faith we have, the more Jesus is willing to do for us.
mi o do tan na a do ke ne no ke da le ke se shu ke ma da le pu a ke
If you watch Christian television channels,
me kwa da a we da ka ne pa kripo Christian television channels do no no ne
you will hear people say that the more faith you have, the more God will reward you.
no kwa no no ne si we da no mi o da do tan na mi a le ne no ke sa ywa ki he la po na a le ke
And the more faith you have, the more money you should send them.
ke wa da le no tan na mi o a do ke ne no no ba chko ne chi a ke le
Does not work that way.
ta we ni no to ma da di ne ba
The most important thing is that you have faith.
ta la re do ko ter ko ne no mi wa da le no ko do ta na ni lo
It has to be there.
no ta na ne ka ba we da pe ni
The most important thing is not the strength of your faith with which you hold on to Jesus,
ta re do ta ne te me da le no ta a we da ka ne ta na a gi a ba no le ne hi ka we da ka sai shukri ne ma
the most important thing is that you are holding on to Jesus.
ta la re do ko ter ko ne no le ne ka ba hi ka we da ka sai shukri
It is even more important that Jesus is holding on to you.
me mer ko no ta la re do ko ta ne we ne ko ne no le ka sai shukri hi ka na mo
The author of the letter to the Hebrews writes, "Therefore do not throw away your confidence, which has a great reward. For you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the will of God, you may receive what is promised. For yet a little while, and the coming one will come and will not delay. But my righteous one shall live by faith. And if he shrinks back, my soul has no pleasure in him." But we are not of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but of those who have faith and preserve their souls. Hebrews 10, verses 35 to 39.
kwa kweli Hebrew na kwa kweli Hebrew na siwe dadi ina le Hebrew sado tesi sapo tesi da tesi queen มาตาดีเนี่ยดอนยกวิสุตาตาคุดเลลาโอดออบัวเลโดโดกเลอีดเรอะเกดีอีฟิวิตาสัวลอโอเวดีโตตึมาเพยัวตาวีดอซึกเนบาตาสิปาดพาลออะเกดีอีโอดีตโซโพดอปาเลอะเฮตกาเนเคเฮเวดอตมายิมานอบาตาบาปาซาดอปาตอลูเนกุมเวเลตานาลอดอปวามีฮูเกียตาดอ Yesa temula ba le oba meme poeda e teme ba kwale awuki atasu ta hago apuba meme kwala asuki naketa pele ta uki koki olo
The biggest problem is not that we don't have enough faith.
ta ko ta kya dog de honi na temele po oda ta na po to oda ta na lo ne ba
The biggest problem is that we shrink back or throw away our faith.
ta ko ta kya dog de honi na le pu ke bla ki ba ne po kuite ku ya da ta na
We may shrink back because we think that we're not worthy to belong to God through Jesus Christ.
Bà huy cái bờ khi nó bữa chung mua đã lên nó bữa tụ ổn với đã đã ta cơ ta bà lên bữa bà khai đã đã xây chụp này bà
Or we might throw away our faith when we give in to the temptation to sin.
mà nên bữa cơ đợi quê đã bữa ta sự ta nà nó phải lên à quê bữa lót tiền nữa đã lên ta lên sau bữa lên bữa mà ta để bà cái này
Don't we often do that and
à
displease God?
nhớ nên nên bữa tâm mà ta quê này á lên bữa tâm mà ta cứ bà cái xây vào này bữa mà ta quê này ta lo lo tâm á
Where do we get faith?
à bữa đó này bà quê đã ta nà phải lên
The book of Hebrews calls Jesus the founder and perfecter of our faith, Hebrews 12, verse 2.
Libre sa do to siki sa po kino awe pakwe libre si weda no o kasa shukrine na mi weda awe pala do to weda betana do pala kwe da betana rim
This means that faith comes from Jesus.
tawe yakob nya weda le tana ni he weda le kasa shukre oni no
Faith is a gift that Jesus gives.
tana ni na mi weda ta hile kasa shukre pani no
Is your faith lacking?
ni tana ni sa weda ni ya
Do you need help?
ni lo ba weda tamase ni ya
You can pray about these things.
ni khi ba tu pa da le ta ri ti pa ya go si weda ni no
If your faith is weak, you can pray to God.
Natanam agimi saweda ne na no khiba tu pa da le ka sawa o ti weda
And God will help you to overcome your unbelief.
no ka sawa ka ma se na le na ka ma na ku da na ta ta na ta ba ni lo
If you keep falling into sin, you can pray to God.
no mu se lo te weda le ta de ba pu ne na awe ba tu pa le ka sawa o ti weda
And God will forgive you and change you.
no ka sawa na ko pla ku da ta de ba da awe da ka le lo ku da na ni lo
If you keep walking away from your faith, you can pray to God.
no mu se no haji ku da le na ta na pu ne no ba tu pa su ka sawa o
And God will welcome you back.
no ka sawa ne na weda ka tu lo me kina
And you will receive beautiful promises.
no no do ne ba weda ta lo la ki la do mani lo
Jesus called the woman daughter.
ka sai shukri ko weda po me ne le awe pho me ne lo
Jesus calls anyone who believes his son or daughter.
ka sai shukri ko weda na pa ta ga la na ta ni no le pho khwa do pho me ne lo
You will belong to his kingdom.
no ka ba kha weda do bo me ne lo
You will be greatly rewarded.
no ka ba ta hila ka po na do me ne lo
May you believe and see that reward in full one day.
mo no ka na ta no no ka tin ni weda no ta hila ka po pha do ne no le a le po weda le me ti ni ne de ke